church, we used to have the slide that had the countdown at the beginning of the service.
Oh, really?
We had to get rid of it because we weren't starting the time, so. I was paying attention to it.
Behave themselves.
It was like, oh, it's
Started live.
find your seats. All right. Hi, everyone. I'd like to call this meeting to order. Begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we'll start with the oath of office for the newly elected board member.
Please stand. Raise your right hand. I state your name.
I, Douglas B. Lansing,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution
that I will support the Constitution
of the United States
of the United States,
and the Constitution
the Constitution
of the State of New York,
of the State of New York,
and that I will faithfully discharge
and I will faithfully discharge
the duties as general board member
the duties as General Board Member
of the Board of Education
of the Board of Education
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my ability.
Welcome, Doug. Do you have any questions? I stand here. Or Rick.
I've been doing it for years.
Yeah.
See that empty chair?
Rick, hold the hammer. All right, so first order of business is the consent agenda. The recommended action: approve the following items which are included in the consent agenda: 5A minutes, 7A athletic mergers, 7B CEWW resolution for ESY, and 7D special education. Do I have a motion?
Yes.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Yes.
Thank you, Dan. Are there any exceptions, discussion? All right, everybody will vote.
This is where I need some help.
Make sure he's signed in, because sometimes you can't tell.
He's on the agenda.
Colleen, are you
You
gonna
can see
vote?
the agenda though. so
Give
you're-
thumbs up.
Yeah, won't you
She says yes.
refresh? I had to refresh, get back in.
So Doug, you could vote and I sit here and say yes.
Aye.
Perfect, the old fashioned way.
Oh.
Voting class.
Okay. We have 6 yes. Oh, yes.
Joan?
Joan is not in the meeting. She's not coming. So I have
No,
6
that's what
yes.
you say. Okay, next up is information for the public. In response to some of the concerns that are raised in previous meetings, you'll see a link to the conflict of interest statements that are posted for the board members, as well as a note about suggestions for changes in policy ideology will be evaluated by the policy committee. So we will pass along all that information. Then they can work with that. So that brings us to, for the good of the cause, the public may address the board. Do you have any emails?
We do not.
We have a special thing for you guys.
Very special.
You have your whole own little thing here. All right. So moving on to the presentation portion. Take it away, gentlemen.
Am I to assume that chair at that table is for whoever speaks? Because I'd like to just stand and speak.
You can stand.
Yeah, stand, whatever's convenient.
First of all, thank you very much for allowing me to speak to the school board. I think I'd like to comment that like our town board, you all work from laptops, and I'm just old enough that I'm still the one with all the hard copy paper, and I bail them out every meeting. Anyway, it's a pleasure to speak to you all. you know, this board, our board, village board, Roost, no matter what board it is, we all get stuck in our lanes. We're all consumed with what we have to do, being responsible to the public that we represent. And I was lucky this year to meet Tim, and together, I believe, not only do we each share this vision, but there's an effort underway to basically put all the players at a table as we tackle community interests. We all have a part in every decision that's made, whether we are indirectly interested in a project, but between Tim and myself, we've spoken at least 3 times this year. And I'd like to remind you all that the first thing we did as a community coalition, I'll call it, is this MacPack program for the students during these games. It was an awesome effort to come up with minuscule financial contributions to pull off something that's taken care of what, between 2 and 250 kids, or are we more than that?
And representatives now from a school in Harlem as well, so.
Yeah,
We've got a pretty far reach with that program.
and who do we use? We use Roost, we use the village, we use the town, and you, of course, at the school. With teachers, with buses, with our Craigwood Golf Course. Anyway, that's the impression I want to make on you. And tonight, this is a very informal invitation to become part of what I call the coalition. Looking down the road, we have a number of projects that I can envision. One that I know that I believe was born right here that really hasn't gained traction yet, but we will need all of us to pull it off. And that's this potential food pantry / thrift shop that potentially could go in the Shipman Center. It will take us all to figure that out and fund it, and I'm convinced we will. So that's my reason in coming here tonight. Certainly I'll offer an invitation for any of you certain to join our town board meetings as well. But I promise in this next year, in my second year of my first term, that I will always include you. I'm not saying every project that we'll look at, there won't be serious discussion, maybe some conflict. But together we'll do things for this community and be unified in the end. So that's what I'm looking for. I'm going to give you examples. I already talked about the food pantry and the thrift shop. I'm sure you've read that our town board, with Rick being our primary representative, we're bringing back a 1928 legislative group called the Sports Council. In the early days, that was to help bring events here for the 32 Olympics when the Park District was first formed. Over the years, in the early years, they worked directly and closely with ORDA when the first transition happened. But as we all know, ORDA and the state has evolved into a tremendous empire. So there's been a lot of evolution that kind of moved away from needed the local sports council. However, in recent years, we recognize many other community side attachments, if you will, where a sports council can come into play. We have the biggest lacrosse tournament that needs volunteers. Representing your school district, we have the newly formed, well, maybe it's not that new, the Outing Club, which has a tremendous energy base to take care of, as you probably know, 90 kids that are going to access our Nordic Ski Center there at Craigwood twice a week for the rest of the winter, if we ever get snow. There are avenues for us to all work together on our summer youth program. I'm working with the with Cornell Cooperative Extension to bring a gardening program here and work with Sharice Bixler that now is under the town auspices with the beautification committee. That's like a lifelong skill that we can give these kids. Gardening, flowers. We talked about the Nordic program. I think that just about wraps up my message to you. And it basically is, come to the table with us. My door is always open. We can talk individually about different things going on. I welcome new ideas, but my point is, it will take all of us working together to keep things moving forward. With that, I think I've spoken long enough. Rick, I don't know if you want to add to it.
What he said.
Thank you very much.
I'm here basically just to let you know that I'm been appointed by Derek to be the, what am I looking for? Liaison between the school and the town board. So if you have anything that is troubling you.
So he's your hired muscle, is that what you're saying?
He's definitely my link in. Yeah.
So yeah, that's questions, comments?
Anyone have any comments, questions?
Here, when do you hope for to put this warming hut in place? Is there something out there now? Is that something that the town has done?
Yes, it started out of, let's say it started out of the recognition that we went through a whole winter last winter without anything.
Right.
And I'll admit it was an idea born with me in a way that the community as a whole could pick something. And I don't want to use the term neglected or whatever. I'm looking way past that. I'm taking this building as a way to say to the governor that'll be here Thursday night, as a way to say to Orda, as a way to say to everyone, we recognize what isn't there. Here's what we can do. And it's a position of gratitude and thanks for the state sending $550 million to upgrade these facilities and give us a level of sustainability for probably 50 more years. Just the employment level that Orda supplies. I don't know how many kids in our school system have parents that work for Orda. I bet it's appreciable. So for my own personal thought, it is a very affordable way to give thanks and help move forward. And that's without saying anything politically or going somewhere that we don't need to go that will create any kind of controversy. This is purely just an act that say, here's what the community needs. I think we can do it. It should be important for you to know I've helped secure the financing of that through LEAF, which is a user-based occupancy tax money that doesn't tackle our taxpayers. I've used from the town portion, ARPA funds for a smaller portion. $73,000 will be recommended by LEAF committee to put toward this project. 13 from the town, 13 from the school. I'm sorry, I didn't say that. 13 from the village and 13 from Roost. It is a project that's taken care of and underway. So my approach here isn't to you tonight for the warming shed. It's merely to say, moving forward, let's all sit at the table.
And so
Just
this building that's currently there, is that a temporary warming hut that the town has put there, Derek, or?
The town, in conjunction with working with Orda,
Okay.
with recognizing the plan as a whole, because their plan for out there wasn't fulfilled because there's only 2 buildings out there. One lean-to is set to be moved
Okay.
so that the warming hut can go in that space.
And the warming hut, I could be completely naive on all of this, but it's not currently what's there. You're.
Is that temporary structure? That was the question.
Is
That will be the warming hut. It's
That
just,
is the warming up.
that is the warming hut.
It's in a temporary position
Okay.
and on a temporary foundation.
Okay.
And that's, we spoke a little bit, if I may.
Yes, please. do.
Because it's a temporary structure, I don't believe the school has been involved. Is that correct in saying?
The school was not consulted with him.
Right, exactly.
So what the plan is, and correct me if I'm wrong, is before it becomes permanent, the school will definitely be and should be and will be involved.
We would have to be.
It has to be.
Right.
That's a non-negotiable. That's not even a matter of
Right.
opinion or politics. That's a matter of law.
So were we consulted when the lean-tos were put in place? Was that part of?
That was part of the
Logistics,
construction
okay.
project, I believe, so.
So I think I can speak for the board when we do want to work with everyone for the betterment of our community. I think that we have some serious reservations as to whether the shed that's there now is the right move. I think that making it a permanent structure seems like that's not optimal. I know my children have been to the Oval since it's been there, but you can't use it because if there's 10 people in there, there's no space for anybody to get in and out. So they still wind up being outside. You know, even if you moved it horizontal to the Oval and you could put windows in it, or you could put a second egress location, because currently there's only one door, correct?
That's right.
Yeah, so, you know, turning it sideways and making egress. I mean, I think the ideal solution would be to stick build something that would actually serve the purpose, because I don't think that shed design was originally for warming hut. It's just it's one of those prefab sheds, correct?
And I think out of respect for you guys, that's why I'm not here tonight to say I'm looking for a monetary donation. I want those discussions between you in order to be your deal. And I'm not overstepping my bounds.
Yeah, but Dan's not talking about money. I think he's more talking about the architectural features and the suitability of the building.
Right.
If I understand Dan's comments.
Right, and just how do we utilize that structure that's now on school property for educational purposes? How do we
Right.
utilize it, even if, you know, if it were situated differently, could we use it as an outdoor classroom or a secondary educational location? I mean, as it is now, it would really only be suitable for storage. So, you know, I think that there has to be a larger conversation about what's gonna go there on that side of the property. I mean, if it's gonna be on Orta's side of the, or the town side of the property, then, you know, that's a different jurisdiction. But I
Yeah.
think that if we're going to put a permanent structure there, we have to make the case to state ed as to why this permanent structure is going to be there and what purpose it serves.
Is there a town side to the Oval?
Yes.
Yeah,
Where is that located?
It's on the entrance toward Cummings.
the other side that we don't, that's not
Okay.
school property.
Okay,
Almost split.
There's a property line down this, there's a map somewhere.
and there's only, it only fits 10 people?
Oh, no, it's actually just 14 by 32 is what rings in my mind.
Well, I think that the main issue is when you put people in there, occupancy is one thing, comfort is another.
Right.
Like when you have one door entering a space, there's that congestion point. So like my daughters have not been able to go into it yet because it's constantly full of people. And, you know, I think that we have to look at what.
I think you're exactly right. By moving one lean-to, and I'm just trying to outguess to turn it sideways and a lot of glass, so grandparents or whatever can sit and
Even
watch.
that would be a big improvement.
The
And then you
door
could-
out, door out the
door
other
in,
end.
door out. Yeah,
And I'll even say, the mayor stopped and talked to me and asked if, Orta might consider, putting the siding on a building like that matches the
That-
Sheffield.
Yeah.
So it's
So-
architectural integrity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It looks
Yeah.
a little
So-
nicer.
Right now, it's a.
But I think Derek, I think your point is well taken, that we need something there. I'm not sure what the answer is, but anybody that grew up here in the community, we always had the warming building. That's just where you went. And it is, again, not to get into anything, but it's somewhat foolish. The lean-tos, they look architecturally really sweet and like placid, but what do? You sit on in front of them, you throw your boots in the snow and you put your feet in the snow, you're putting your skates on and off. It's just
yeah.
kind of a silly thing. So I think it's important that we have something. I'm not sure how we get there, but I think your mission is very important, that we do have something for our community.
Sure.
Yeah. And I definitely think that the board is willing to help and get those plans to the point where it's a useful structure, not just for Orta's operation of the speed skating oval in the winter, but also during the summer months.
Right.
Because that's a big component of it for us to be able to say to state ed that this serves some purpose for the students outside of.
I mean, on the off nights, I'd love to see, the kids that use the hockey box. I mean, it makes sense for them. So,
No, it would, no,
Yeah,
definitely.
absolutely.
It's another thing.
Yeah.
The kids just sit there in the cold,
Yeah.
putting their skates on and, you know, whatever.
so there's certainly room for a lot of discussion. In leaving here, what will you guys charge me with? can I help facilitate talks between you? I'm happy to play any role.
So I think we need specifics for one thing. We need like a specific plan as to how things are gonna go so that we could, because I mean, we deal in specifics on the.
Show our participation in the formulation of this,
Yeah,
like a committee.
I think that if you have us involved in the planning, then that will head off any issues, then we can run checks on what's being developed so that we don't have a fully formed plan and then it's turned down because of issues that come up with those.
So once the games are over,
Right.
should I contact Mike Pratt to initiate conversation with you guys, or am I overstepping my bounds and that comes from you, Dan?
If I may.
Yeah, go ahead.
As the supervisor, you represent the town, and the town is effectively the co-owner with the district. These certain privileges to ORDA, which Mike oversees. So I think what would be beneficial is first an opportunity for the board to visualize the temporary structure presently, to identify the feasibility of that for permanent usage. And then also perhaps maybe a meeting thereafter to identify prospective sites, the suitability of the existing structure based on the opinion of board members who have seen it, and maybe just an action plan from there about what we should have around the table.
So I'll wait to hear from you.
That sounds great.
Yeah.
Get through the games.
Perfect.
And does that sound like an appropriate mechanism for us?
Just to plant something, what my vision of that is, I think I passed this by Derek, is again, moving it sideways. Perhaps moving the door from an end to the middle. So now as you enter, you can take a right or you can take a left, which gives you your capacity, your true capacity, without having to pass by everybody.
I think having the glass too would help because you'd be able to see how many
The
people are
glass would
there.
help. I know that personally, I direct 3 races, foot races, and they all start or finish at the oval. And that's what we're missing, is that component of having a place where people can gather, can check in. I know that has little or nothing to do with the school directly. Indirectly, we're in talks with the school, how we can make at least one of those races finance the school a little bit more heavily. So in an indirect way will benefit the school.
Derek, by code though, doesn't it have to have 2 means of egress unless,
It depends on square footage,
okay.
Yep.
Um,
but there's room for a lot of improvement in that building. That,
and do you think that ORDA, I don't know if you broached the subject or not, but do you think that ORDA, at least aesthetically, is willing to do something to make it kind of coexist with the other surrounding buildings so it doesn't look like a sore thumb kind of thing?
I'll bet I'll have a pretty good chance of getting through.
Okay.
All right.
Derek, you're welcome to stay for the meeting, obviously. Rick knows better, I'm sure.
Listen.
Without the door.
My board would like to kill me. So, anyway.
When it went to 2 pages, I said, I'm out of here.
No,
Time to go.
Derek, I did want to say though, and just reference again, through the LEAF organization, which the town ultimately oversees, the school was granted a generous community school founding grant of $100,000. And you enabled Keith Clark to begin this work in conjunction with the district. So thank you for that.
Thank you very much for
Very
that.
much.
Listen, I'll never forget a letter I got, and I believe you sent it, Dan, that said, in many cases, you don't have the power to shape the future of our kids, and we do. That's why I'm here.
thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you very much for coming.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Derek.
My pleasure. Good night.
The next few weeks.
See you.
Go both ways.
See you out there.
All right. So that brings us to 4A budget performance report.
Okay, first document is looking at the performance as of November 30th. haven't quite, we're not quite far enough into January to produce the December information, treasury report and all that, but that's usually second board meeting of the month anyway. So that's something we'll do in the next meeting. But when you look here, in terms of month-to-date revenue as of at the end of November, was down by $186,000. Expenditures were up just about $300,000 in terms of expenditures for the month of November. Year-to-date revenue is down by about $600,000, and not too far off, 83.8% versus 84.8%. That's usually just a matter of timing. I said that before. I mean, our property tax is really the driving force. About 83, 85% of our revenue comes from that, and most of that's in. So that's kind of where we are in the state aid, federal aid that comes in, later during the year. So when I see something like that, I basically see it as a wash. Year to date for expenditures, we look at it in terms of percentage wise. 36% of the budget has already been expended versus 30.5% last year. So even though we've spent more, in reality, if you look at it, still considered favorable year to date of about $595,000. You can see where it breaks down in terms of the various subcategories. Projected wise, you can see that what the projected is versus our actual budget. Right now, the projection is $20.3 million in projected revenue. Budgeted 20.911. Expenditures slightly above what's projected revenue, $20.3 million versus the 20.9. So we're seeing right now, anyway, as of end of November, a negative difference between what's projected of about $15,000. Again, that's a small number. That's when you look at the budget and all that, it's a lot of rounding areas and stuff like that. And we're still, according to this, at the end of November, we're not quite even halfway into the year. So it is something where it's. Generally, we've been seeing in the past this being a surplus. This is the first time in a few years where we're seeing it as a negative, but not too concerned with that just because of the timing and all that. I mean, we're really just getting back into. I mean, last year was for the most part a normal year in terms of operations. We're seeing normal expenses this year as well, so we're really starting just to see some normalcy back in terms of comparisons for our budgets. But as of November, questions on that? Been about 5 weeks. The second document I have is the budget comparison. This is a little more real time. This was as of January 9th is when I put together these this chart, and you can kind of see that shows a slightly different view when you look at it. I've broken it down by categories, and when you look at it, salaries and benefits, those are usually our two driving forces when it comes to the budget anyway, as well as contractual and BOCES. So when you look at this and you see we're off about $230,000 from last year with salaries, about $839,000 for benefits, contractual, and that's BOCES, that's a little over $200,000. With the exception of equipment, we're seeing an increase in the comparison as of last year. So when I see this, I look at last year up to January 9th. So I do compare it from the actual days. And when you look at the difference, as right now, you're seeing a difference of about $1.6 million this year to last year in terms of expenses. And just like last meeting, when we talked about this, $760,000 of that difference is the TRS when we actually booked it. This year we recorded it back in November, and last year we didn't record it until February. So really, we're not going to see a true look, because that is one of those things when you look at the employee benefits. That's where we've expensed, we've indicated as an expense this year. Last year, that didn't happen until February. So that's why you're seeing a larger than normal. It's like, oh my goodness, $1.6 million. In reality, you take away that $770,000, you're looking at kind of normal increase of what our budget was. You know, as we said before, I mean, salaries are higher, benefits are higher, expenses are higher. So
That's
that's
about the
it.
supplies, Dana. Why is that so much bigger?
Basically, we, like with
Yeah,
this
timing.
year, we did a lot of more expenses of supplies earlier in the year this year. We did a lot, one of the things that we tried to do is get things in over the summer before the start of the school year. The previous year, because of supply issues and all that, there's a lot of delays.
Okay.
Same token, when you look at equipment, we did a lot of expenses last year. This time you'll see, it's still down. We're going to see a difference there in the next month because we can move around and did some expenses for equipment. Just a matter of, we haven't actually paid the bill yet. So you're going to see a difference there in the next look at it. Our debt service, why you're seeing a difference there is last year at this time, we still had the band, and that really didn't get paid out until the end of the school year. This difference of $364,000, $260,000 of that, $270,000 of that is actually our first payments of our bonds in terms of the interest. We paid the principal on our bond, our $14.6 million bond. We paid the principal of it at the end of the school year, but the interest, which is like $586,000, is split over the year. So we paid in December and in June. We didn't have that payment last year at this
So you
time.
went from a bond anticipation note to a serial bond.
Yes,
Right.
yep. So last year, all the bands over the last couple of years, we always paid at the end of the school year. Whereas now we're getting back into our normal cycle where we'll have an interest payments December and June, principal payments in June. Plus, we also had in December, we made the last payments of one of our bonds, the 2007 bonds. I forget exactly what it was for. It was like $110,000. So we just paid that off. That was December 15th is when we made that payment.
Let me ask you, is this new long-term serial bond, is it 15 years, 20 years, 10 years? How?
15.
50.
Yeah, and basically going forward,
Yep.
when you, in fact, I was starting to work on the budget for next year. Going forward, basically the payment will be set for the next 15 years.
Exactly.
It's just a matter of, all right, more principal,
Right.
more interest, principal, and then as the years goes, it fluctuates, but
Right.
we'll sit at about $1.4 million a year going forward for the bonds. Give or take. So that's where you see the difference there with the debt service and all that.
Mhm.
So. Other questions on the comparison? Next board meeting, I'll have an up-to-date as of, I try to put chart together the day before the meeting, just so it's up to date. And then the budget performance report, that's an end of the month report. So you kind of get two snapshots, one at the end of the month and one up to date, where I break it down by categories, just to kind of give you guys a running tally, if you will.
One last question. What is the interest rate on the serial bond?
2.95. We hit it just before everything started going up. Yeah, we really did. We locked it in. It was in June. Fiscal advisors, they were quite surprised the rate that we got.
Yeah.
But I mean, we said this before, we are a healthy, district when it comes to our fiscal,
And a nice tax base to support.
Yep, when you look at it in terms of Moody's ratings, we're an A rating school, so we're considered a low risk investment when it comes
That's
to
a great
bonds.
rate.
So,
Absolutely, in June,
we had a very good rate. We saw that over the years with our bands, the low rates. So, that bodes well because, we are a healthy district, we manage our money pretty well in that regard in terms of cash flow and all that.
And thank you for your efforts in that regard.
Other questions on the budget performance? All right. Treasury report. So when you look at this, it kind of bodes well in terms of our district. When you look at the insured cash sweep, we're sitting at about $18 million. And that's in our cash sweep that is spread throughout various banks along the country in terms of generating some interest. So when you see that, we have the other various fees, got compensating fees, and then our restricted funds in terms of the EBLAR, the tax sorcery, and the unemployment. You don't see on here, which I do assure you that it is a restricted account, is the $1 million for the repair reserve. We just did not put it in a separate savings account through NBT Bank. But if you look through the financial statements that were presented back in November from Tom Telling, in that report, you will see that it is considered a restricted reserve account. It is separate from, we're just, we are not putting it in a specific savings account like we do for these other repair reserves, but it is restricted. Yeah, it is restricted, in our ledger. And that's how it's indicated, and that's how you'll see it in the financial statement as well. When you look at this, we brought in about $380,000, dispersed about $873,000 for the month of November. All said and done, I mean, again, it is a typical month in terms of money in, money out. The fact that, again, we have $18 million in our cash sweep. Obviously, it's higher now, and as we progress through the year, it goes lower because we tap into that. Anytime we do some type of payroll or cut checks, Betsy Smith will transfer money out of the cash sweep into our operating account. You'll see we try to keep a small amount in our operating accounts, and then we just move money in when we got to pay our bills. And then it stays in the cash sweep otherwise.
Let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
So how do you determine, or how often do you look at the determination of the tax reserve, for example, or the unemployment reserve? Every year, do you take a look at how you tap that and then make adjustments in future years, or is it pretty much set every year at 375?
Well, since I've been sitting in this position the last 5 years, we haven't touched either one.
I know.
So that's kind of where we kind of sit there. That's where it's been. And quite honestly, when you look at it, and you guys have approved, we'll probably have one coming up soon where there's an AV reduction. A couple $100 here, a couple $1,000 there, and all that. Could we technically move money out of the tax sorcery to cover that AV reduction? We absolutely can.
That's my final question.
Yeah.
So what are the strategic decisions, if you want to use the word strategic, to leaving it at 375 versus not? Is there pros and cons to it?
Well, basically, if we pull it out, we would have to put it back. So if I can,
Right.
if I can absorb that reduction through the general operating budget, then I don't touch it because that way I don't have to put it back in later on.
I got it.
Yep, just like with the EBLAR. The EBLAR is typically what we would use for when a person retires and we pay out their unused sick time, vacation time, and all that. Tax, basically a deferred compensation.
It's nice to have it there.
Right.
Yeah.
So again, could
Comfort.
we,
Comfort.
every year we have people retire and, we have anywhere from, I think last year we had like $26,000 that was used for this deferred compensation paying out a retiree. Could I move that money out of the EBLAR into it? Sure. But if the general operating budget can take it in and not change it, then I'll leave it there. That's money I don't have to put back into the EBLAR by not tapping into it. So it kind of goes to the healthiness of our budgeting, looking at our expenses. That's we don't have to tap into these restricted reserves when we can. I mean, we're still sitting, and it's not on here. We have $100,000 into TRS restricted reserve that we created 2 years ago. I think we can do like 10% of teachers' reserve in terms of their salaries. So we maxed it at about 100,000 about 2 years ago. And again, we could tap into it to help offset budget increases. We haven't had to. They're there for, I look at it as truly the rainy days where, oh my goodness, we need to. And as long as we keep doing what we're doing in terms of being fiscally responsible and watching things like that, those restricted reserve accounts are there to be there for truly the emergencies and the rainy day funds. If our general operating budget can absorb it, then that's the approach I take.
One final question.
Sure.
So with that analysis, I assume there is no connection between these reserve accounts and our state aid direct relationship? At
No.
all? Not at all.
No,
Okay,
not at
fair
all.
enough.
Yeah, they don't look at our reserve accounts. When you look at our state aid, we are, the bulk of it is considered foundation aid, and that's a formula that the states puts together. And then we have the other portion of our state aid is expense driven.
Yep.
Services we use through BOCES, it's aidable, textbooks, software, hardware, things like that. Those are all expense driven. So the more money, in theory, the more money we spend through BOCES, the more we'll get back in BOCES aid. Granted, we are at the very low end
I know.
of aidable,
Yep.
but we do get that back. So they don't necessarily look at
Good.
this. Now, I guess hypothetically, if the state controllers came in and did a state audit and they said, geez, you're sitting at 50% fund balance. Why? 4% is, again, we don't have a 50% fund balance.
No.
I'm just using a hypothetical percentage, but 4% is that, I've seen in years past where districts have had to pay that down and basically say, you either keep your tax levy at 0 or actually go negative
Mhm.
because that's taxpayer money, type of deal.
Or sign it to reserves.
Or assign it to reserves, yeah. And that's where we look at the repair reserve by putting $1 million in there. And, all of these reserves, for the most parts, other than the retirement one, they don't have caps on them.
Got it.
We can put as much in there except for the TRS that we want, or
Okay.
you guys want. Ultimately, it's the board's decision to do that, yes.
Have we tapped into the repair reserve yet for anything?
We have not. A lot of
I
things.
mean, I guess that's good.
Well,
It's good.
we have a number of projects we're looking at, but we thought we were gonna have new network system here done in the fall, and
Good.
I guess we understood them when they said the fall that they would get done. They meant the fall of 23. We didn't hear it at the 23 until they came to November to do a walkthrough, and we're like, oh, great, here you come, you're getting ready to install it. And they said, oh, yeah, fall of 23 is probably when we're gonna do it. So,
Dana, how,
It sounds like a limestone project.
yeah.
how would the board, I asked, how would the board know that we were looking to tap into the repair reserve? What would be
So you guys would have to hold, so there's two things. So if we tap into it, and if I decide not to tell you guys that we're tapping into it, then we would have 2 years to pay back whatever we tap into. Or I would say to Tim to say, hey, can the board have a public hearing because we want to spend $200,000 on network charges? And then you guys have a public hearing to get the input and all that. And then you guys, the public knows that we are going to use $200,000 in the repair reserve. You guys sign off on it. There you go. We don't have to pay it back
Got it.
within 2 years. We can add to it at any time, but we're not forced to pay it back because we didn't hold a public hearing. I.e., I will always be coming to you guys through Tim in terms of a public hearing, unless it's such an emergency that it needs to be done tomorrow. But hopefully we're not there.
Tina, is it a hearing and also a vote?
I think so. I think that public hearing has to happen, and then there's probably
After
the
the
board has
hearing,
to then
the board
act
has
on
to
it.
Close the hearing.
Yes, yeah, just to get their approval that we are
You
spending
have
this.
to waive.
Yeah, and it's interesting because some of the other reserves, we don't necessarily, it doesn't have to go to public hearing, the EBLAR and the retirements and the tax treasury. I don't believe has to have a public hearing, but the repair reserve, and if we had a capital reserve accounts, that would also.
Okay.
Yes.
Great. And I'm assuming the big check outstanding is BOCES?
That would be my guess too, without BOCES, $380,000. And then you'll see a $60,000 one. That's the white Suburban that we purchased. Gotcha. Yes, and that was like right after Thanksgiving. So it was truly at the very end of November when we purchased that white Suburban.
BOCES cashes checks.
Yes, they're very slow processing everything. We pay our maintenance on time.
They're not the worst, I guess. We love them. Just kidding. All right. Thank you very much, Dana. Any more questions for Dana? Ron?
No, thank
You
you.
tapped
I'm
out.
good. I'm good.
All right. Excellent. Thank you very much, Dana. Superintendent's report, Tim.
Wait, you missed operations committee.
Oh, yeah.
report.
Oh, I'm
I'll
sorry.
give that shot. I mean, it's the black stuff.
Go on,
I saw the name on it. You know about me. It's not, it can be short. Is that about- now we're gonna-
Go ahead, please.
Yeah, quite all right. I'm not taking offense to it. It really has. I mean, we had break and all that. We, in terms of operations, other than gearing up for the FISUs, I don't know if you noticed, we do have a couple new signs, gymnasium sign on the building. So, I don't know if they replaced the sign right out here with a new mission
The
statement.
mission isn't up yet, but it's.
Yeah, but because we had we had new signs, right out here, there's the big signs in the garden that's gonna get replaced. I know they replaced the one, the ones on the wall on the building are new. Yeah, I'm sure with that fire. Other than that, it's been a pretty quiet, month in terms of operations.
No more elevator drama.
There's always repairs to the elevator, but nothing major. Nothing major to it.
Elevator line.
I know.
That's
I
right.
just remember when I first was on the board, it was like the elevator was a constant sore spot. I love it.
Apparently, it needs an annual inspection that we never knew, and that happened in December.
Oh, good.
So when we switched elevator operators, we're truly getting things all lined up and ensuring that our elevators are operating efficiently and smoothly. And yes, not to say that they have not stuck, they have, but nothing major.
We do have a building conditions survey that will be required to be completed with our architect. March, is that correct?
I believe it's March, yes, yeah.
That's a great opportunity for us to have money expended and aided to find all the defects in our facilities and then generate perhaps a repair reserve usage suggestion for the board or a long-term capital project down the road. So all of our facilities will be reviewed in the coming months here, which is good.
Great. Excellent.
Thank you.
Any questions for the operations committee here? All right, thank you very much, Dana. Now moving on to Tim.
So we have quite a bit of chronology to cover here, not having had a meeting since before Christmas, and there's a fair degree of fanfare in the Bomber Nation here with regards to the holiday season. So I want to try and touch on what has taken place prior to the holidays and what we have in the hopper in the weeks to come. So at the middle high school, the backpack program really did an amazing job providing food cards to over 30 families to use through the holidays. So just the ability for families to utilize those at the stores that they choose and in a manner that is best for their family. Really nice thing that we do as a district. Before the break, the middle school had, as I mentioned, some of that fanfare. There was a full week of a holiday regalia. Highlights include an ugly sweater contest with truly decorous and offensive apparel. It was glorious to behold. The students had an opportunity to, as per tradition, skate on the oval for a full afternoon. Prior to the break, there was hot chocolate cookies available for them. I didn't have a chance to do that last year with them, so just to go out and see that, I know they were one of the many FISU architect people were there from like Jersey putting up fencing or something, unbeknownst to us, of course. And for the course, and he looked at me and he's like, do they always skate out here on this oval? And I was like, this is a special day. This is awesome. This is awesome. So I just sort of was taking it all in. It was beautiful. The kids also went to go see a movie at the Palace, in the morning. So we do a lot of awesome things that I think we are very fortunate to have. After the break, the Middle School Positivity Club met and, had hot chocolate and cookies distributed to the students just as like a welcome back, which I think was obviously well received by the students. At the high school before the break, there were a ton of things. They also participated in the hideous knitwear competition, but they also hosted the senior dinner with the Alumni Association. And Patty Mayberry and Ashley Mayberry, they put on a spread in our fax room like no other. And I felt very fortunate to go and dine with the seniors who all dressed up for the occasion, and for the staff who were all well fed and they provide desserts. So it was an awesome thing. Yet again, it's a tradition we do in our school. Moving on to after the break and into the future, some of our students are going to be participating in the VCU Torch Relay Thursday. So our cross-country team, they will be running the torch from the Man and Beast store all the way to Golden Arrow. And the students in grades 6 through 8 will be lining the way to cheer on their classmates as they run. Each class in the middle school also picked 2 students to be representatives to also carry the torch. So good fanfare with our kids in anticipation for the games. It's really nice to see. Also in preparation for the games, I know Derek alluded to the MacPack program, but that really was the brainchild of Keith in his role as community school coordinator. And I remember when the board made the decision to create the position, and the town funded the community schools program through the LEAF grant. One of the big discussions we had pipe dreamed about was, can we do something for these kids who may not have any exposure to this during a week that we are somewhat strong-armed for security to close our facilities in January. And we were hopeful that we could do something, but to do an event of the caliber that Keith has put together with so many of our staff members, so many of our teachers, all taking place at the elementary school in the morning, our bus drivers, foregoing an opportunity to go down south off book in January. That tells you something if you know a bus driver. That's a big deal. That's the level of dedication that we have. And then all the partnership, the opportunities for the kids, and 200 participants. I mean, our enrollment is around 550, so that's just ridiculous. And the kids, they're going to get swag, they're going to get first class opportunities to go to these games. So really proud of our district for pulling this off, and thankful for the Adirondack Sports Council in funding this program for the district as well. It's awesome. After our VCU break, we have the launching of our Woods program. So we're our first cavalcade of students, 8 brave souls, and the faculty representative for the first trip, Mr. Sam Baker from our science department, will be going on January 21st to 24th to the Hollowed Hills of Mount Chiota to learn the finer things of a lifestyle reminiscent of Noah Rondo. And we are most excited for those kids. That group, along with the program coordinator, Carolyn Walton, when they return from the trip, we intend to have Carolyn and students come and talk to the board and about their experience and explain what frostbite feels like. And, I'm really excited for that. The meeting yesterday with parents, Carolyn was there and showed all of the state-of-the-art gear that the students have to be out in the woods for these 4 days with -40 sleeping bags and boots. And there was just a buzz of excitement.
That's exciting.
We're pleased about that. At the middle high school, looking even further forward, there has been a finalized date for the senior prom, May 20th, and it will be held this year at the Whiteface Lodge. So I think that is a pretty sweet venue. So
That is a sweet thing.
they're doing okay. When we also return somewhat immediately from break, we do have a Regents exam scheduled for about 10 students taking the January Regents. We just recently ordered, inventoried, and are preparing to distribute new touchscreen Chromebooks for our district. So the applications there are tremendous. And when we had our administrative team meeting the other day to talk about how to distribute these, it was like I'd seen someone walk on the moon or something. They took these new computers and it was standing up like this. And then they said, so this is how it works. And then they flipped it and it went down. And it's like I'd never seen a phone before or something. And so you can literally write on them. And so the applications in the immediate term are one, they're going to be distributed to our 9th grade students. Because part of the programming that we're looking to do in our inventory cycle of like top high quality technology for our students is that they will have the same device from 9th grade to 12th grade. It'll be a top quality device. And upon graduation, as that life cycle of the device starts to age, they have the opportunity to purchase the device at a very reasonable rate for their next stage of their career. So also though, the mathematical and art applications for these devices are pretty astounding. So we're organizing some professional development for our staff in the math and arts department for our 9th grade students to have these distributed in mid-February. So we're excited for that application. There's a ton that's been going on, and I feel bad if I didn't share it all. So I'll try and confine myself here. So there is quite a bit of meeting time still happening, and we're very close to narrowing in schedule overhaul for the middle high school next year. And this isn't a schedule that would change when students arrive and when they leave, but the length of class within the bounds of the day. And currently we're operating at 40 minutes, and we're really trying to get within a 55 to 60 minute block. That's the sweet spot that has eluded our district for quite some time. And we are very close to being able to deliver that schedule well in advance of the usual timeline of June for the staff and to have professional development in time for the staff to utilize those extra 20 minutes in a class period in a way that's impactful. So really excited about that. Student Council is planning on hosting a pep rally and a dance on Friday, February 17th. So we're excited to have that level of excitement about our athletic program and about school spirit in general. It's great. In the cafeteria, we are making a very concerted effort to put more color on the plate, to use local products and vendors to a greater degree, and to have student voice be embedded in the food choices that are available for our students. This is a growing edge for us as a district. Our cafeteria staff does a tremendous job, but we are looking to put our district in a place where we are serving something that is exciting for kids. And so we have some site visits planned. We have some regional partners that we're working with, and I'm excited to see what we can do in the months to come. And we have some students that are going to be helping, and they will be relentless with their honesty. And I'm looking forward to seeing what that is.
I hope it's not my son.
We very limited.
Sorry.
Can I have a question?
Yeah,
And
please,
I
yes.
pulled it up because I see that the other day, you brought up something about, there's a woman by the name of Julie Holbrook.
We're working with it.
Oh, okay, because
Yes.
I saved this article that was in the Adirondack Explorer, and she just sounds like, wow, and I saved it, there was an article, and that's exciting, because she's got quite the background and success, so I'm glad, that's
Guys are working
exciting
with
that you guys are,
She is Bill's mentor.
oh, really?
So
Okay,
yep, we're contracting with CVS.
okay,
She works for BOCES and she oversees like 15 schools and all that. So I reached out to Plattsburgh and said,
Okay.
hey, can you do this? And we met at the beginning of the year. We just met, Phil, Julie and I last week to kind of
Oh,
go and do
wonderful.
a review. So yeah, Phil's
That's
mentor
great.
this
No,
year.
there was
Yeah.
a great article in Adirondack Explorer, if anybody looks at it, about their success in coming in and fine tuning programs and, in the food industry. So kind of exciting to read.
What else? Okay, looking to March, Winter Carnival. So we, that March may not be the traditional timeline one might expect to hear when you hear the phrase Winter Carnival for Lake Placid. But we're looking at shaking Winter Carnival up in a way, honoring the past, but moving in a way that can potentially have some improvement for our students. Like just anecdotally, the current motif for our Winter Carnival is that students have a variety of activities, competitions, and games over several days. And then at the end, we crown the king and the queen, and they preside over nothing because the games are over. So, yes, well, the hop, that's, I should say that. I forgot that we do have the hop, that's right. But there's an opportunity for a more regal application of our king and queen. Teresa's been working initially with our planning committee for the Winter Carnival to try and have some of that happen earlier so that the king and queen can actually preside a bit more over the games, which is good. We haven't picked a theme yet, but we're excited about that. That's certainly the first. At the elementary school, there's been a ton of wonderful programs for our kids. We continue to have a recurring series of musical concerts. So this Friday, Eric O'Hara and Eric Gibson from the Gibson Brothers will be playing slide guitar, fiddle, and acoustic guitar for our students as part of a bluegrass symposium at the elementary school. We recently had a meeting of the Friends group, which has really been very active this year. I'm excited to see continued activity of that parent and teacher organization. And prior to the break, there were a whole bunch of things that happened as well that are worthy of note. We had an a cappella group from Possum come and present for our kids. Students had their traditional White Face Lodge Day, the Polar Express Day with the tickets and the hot chocolate. And, all of that took place. So lots of great things happening at the elementary school. In athletics, we had students who were named to all-state teams from the fall recently. 5th team all-state in volleyball, Julia Crawford. 2nd team all-state in cross-country was Amber Scanio. And 3rd team all-state in cross-country was Lillian Rothman. Congratulations to those 3 students for their extraordinary accomplishments. Looking at our athletics in the near term, obviously Vichy was having an impact on things. So hockey is currently practicing in Tupper Lake a few days a week, just because we don't have access to the local ice. Any games during this time really are going to be away games for us for the Vichy time. The Civic Center, if you saw the papers today, it appears to be open, but it's pretty much taken over completely with Vichy activities. But the renovations at the Civic Center do look promising regionally as another option for our SLP team to compete. Basketball season's about halfway through their games to date, and Nordic and Alpine have had as many contests as you can imagine you could have when winter hasn't shown up. But the main competitions do traditionally begin in January, so that's encouraging. And just one last piece just to put on your radar. We have some focus areas, special projects that are going to be taking a lot of our efforts over the next few months that I want you to be aware of. One of them is a focus on acquiring more substantial grants for our district, federal grants especially. The big one that we're going to be targeting is the full service community schools grant. So the timeline of that grant is actually, the portal opens up in July and the grant needs to be submitted by September. That's an abysmal timeline for a school district to have meaningful interactions with regional partners. So we're going to work off of the previous applications that have been put forward, start the process in March. But these are the sorts of grants over 5 years that, are the $1 million types of grants that we're really hoping to leverage for greater in-school community services, field trips, after-school care, tutoring, career and college opportunities for our kids. The sky's the limit. So it's going to be an undertaking to develop that, but we know it can be done. Our regional district, Saranac Lake, was able to receive that district after a few cracks, and so we will hopefully glean some knowledge from them and put forth a strong application this year. We also are looking at targeting maybe a less exciting grant, but far more certainly applicable in the world of business, which is a records management grant. We are packed to the gills of paper in this Ahir trailer, and it would be great if we could get a grant to digitize. So we're seeking out the local grants management, records management improvement fund with the January to March timeline. And then, of course, we have the regular rotation of grants regionally that we are blessed to be able to apply for here in Lake Placid, which includes the generous ACTS grants through the Adirondack Foundation and the town of North Elba's LEAF Fund, which will have another application grant period coming up in the spring. So lots of opportunities that we intend to put forth on behalf of our students. We have the strategic plan, which continues to blaze forward. We have isolated 3 task forces to begin formulating specific goals and action steps for the board's consideration. I would say we're on time in what we had hoped for a launch for next year. Those task forces are putting grants together in the realm of academic excellence, in innovation, and in overall student health wellness. So we're excited to see those task forces come together. We continue to work on streamlining our onboarding process for new hires in the district. That our goal is by June of this year to have a conveyor belt of efficiency, but with far more charm here in the district. So when we hire someone, they are given everything they need, both in knowledge and equipment, to hit the ground running and to excel. So that is a very big focus area for us as well. And that is what's happening and what is planning to happen.
So just a little bit going on.
Not much.
And then All County course, they're down in Los Sable Valley tonight, right now.
How did that get off my report, Dave? Gosh,
Well,
thank you.
technically it hadn't happened yet at the time of your report, so I would assume it would be in the next report. You got to know how it goes.
I can assure you.
And of course.
I think it's just, I only know
But
about.
both are
course.
going.
Both are going.
So I bet you it's both.
It's probably both.
Yeah.
I only have a student. I try to know it all, but it just doesn't work out. All right, thank you so much, Tim. And I would say too, just thank you to all the staff for being flexible with the games and the disruption this is causing, and all the special stuff we're having to do, the extra mile that everyone's going to do this. It's impressive, and we want to thank them for that. And it will soon be all over, and then the snow will be back, and everything will be great.
Only the
Right,
pins will.
I love it.
Yeah, and we'll have the pins to remember.
We're good to go.
Be all over but the pins. Great. So moving on. Oh, do we have any other questions or comments for Tim? All right. And then, so there's some information for the board, the invitation for the legislative breakfast there.
Right, deadline is January 19th, I think, January 19th, if anybody wants to go. It's right here in town.
But I think the note says no legislators will be there. The note says. Or is that a typo?
I'm trying to read.
Don't tell me there's no breakfast either, Dave.
But I don't know.
I can divide one of those.
I just, the note in executive content says without regional legislators. Or is that a typo? Because without is also one word, but
Someone is not grammatically correct. So
right. Let's blame.
Yeah, that out shouldn't be there,
Okay, good.
but that's
So-
that's an important error. that-
Without, there's not anybody going to be there, but come to the.
Yeah.
That's about as substantive as it gets.
I was gonna,
I'm gonna own that one 100%.
that seemed suspicious to me.
Good catch.
And that's, the Regent Catania is gonna be there.
The Raj is right there.
We should give Rick a fancy job in the state so we can all just have all the former people there.
What's on the breakfast menu?
That's right, yeah. And
It
you'll,
says assorted muffins, yogurt and granola, sliced fruit, served with water station, chilled juices and coffee. It's continental breakfast.
there you go.
Assorted.
And so there's some other information in there. I always forget the executive content and the information board we should not discuss, right?
No, just make a point to just, when you review that plan already. if you've had a chance.
Right, so read through that. There's some important stuff about contract negotiations and also possible staffing things, solutions. So please read through that information. And if you want to go to that breakfast, let Karen know. With or without the legislators.
I'll be in my breakfast.
That's right. Free breakfast. Excellent. Okay, so 5A was in the consent agenda. And that brings us to personnel. Personnel consent agenda is recommended action to approve the following items which are included in the personnel consent agenda. 6E teaching assistant resignation, 6F teaching staff appointment, 6G mentor appointment, and 6H CSEA appointment. Do I have a motion?
Yes.
All right, I think I heard
Ron
Ron
and then
edgy out just a
Colleen.
little bit, and then Colleen Lock here.
Yep.
Any withdrawals or exceptions, comments? Discussions? Random sound effects?
I would just mention that within this includes the intended retirement of 3 stalwart members of the Weimar
Mhm.
community.
Well, those are
No.
in.
No, they're
you're
separate.
working
They're
on
not.
those.
Oh,
Yeah.
these are the ones that are out.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah, because we wanted to acknowledge them.
I was gonna. Yeah.
Doug, did your, is it open? Oh. Colleen, is yours up? Is
And
that a yes?
I will then extend a welcome. Did we pass it there?
Yes, 6
Okay,
yes.
then I will extend a welcome to Brian Kern and Michael Trumbauer. Is that how you say that?
Yes.
Trumbauer. We are very excited to have them both join the team here and look forward to working with them. Here, here. All right, so that brings us to 6B, teaching staff retirement. Upon the recommended action, a recommendation of the superintendent, John Glenski, physical education teacher at the middle high school, effective June 30th, 2023. Do I have a motion? Yes. Thank you, Dan. Second?
Second.
Oh, actually, I think I saw Colleen in the video screen.
Fine, great.
You got one there, Colleen.
Yes.
Make big, large movements in the video.
Thank you for noticing. Is that a yes then to Colleen?
Great peripheral vision there, Dan.
And we thank Mr. Glenski for his years of service to the district. I know that he will leave a vacancy that we hope we can fill, but those would be very large shoes.
Yeah, definitely. Big thanks.
Figuratively speaking, I don't know what his true says.
So I have 6 yes.
He's a fairly calm guy.
Probably good. All right, thank you very much for voting. 6C, upon the recommendation of the superintendent, accept the retirement of Margaret Borland, teaching assistant, effective June 23rd, 2023. Do I have a motion?
Yes.
Thank you, Colleen. Second? Colleen. Other Colleen? Colleen 2.
Are you a yes? You're shitting yes too.
She's just someone else that's worked for the district for a long time, and many thanks given to her. I don't know how many years, but she's just been around. She's been a really-
21 for
21
Margie.
years.
Yeah.
And we were talking today in our admin meeting about, and we need a support for a student with almost no notice, or we need someone to cover supporting the bus run. The first two people we go to have put in their retirement, and it speaks to their character, both Margie and Martha. So next.
That's 6 yes.
Everyone. 6D, recommend action upon the recommendation of the superintendent, accept the retirement of Martha Scarpelli, teaching assistant effective June 23rd, 2023. Do I have a motion?
Yes.
Thank you, Dan.
Second.
Thank you, Ron.
Another one of those people that have been around a long time and
Yeah.
really given a lot to the district,
Yes.
How many years have you been here?
many things. Can be similar.
Sure.
I don't have the total, but I know it's
Yeah.
substantial.
So that's probably 75 years of experience.
Experience and dedication to the district.
Yeah, that's impressive.
Absolutely.
That's impressive.
Colleen, is that a yes for you?
John Glinski, Martha are neighbors.
Well, that's great.
They've been
They
talking-
live behind me,
they've
yeah.
been talking over the summer. They're like, what about you?
Going to get the mail and they get it.
Margie's my neighbor. 6 yes.
Thank you, everyone. I believe that takes us through the end of personnel items. Brings us to 7A, sport mergers, which is in consent agenda, as well as 7B. And I wrote down 7D, but I bet you that's 7C, right?
Yes.
Both moved. Okay. Moving along to linking goals with agenda items. I think that, I don't know if then retiring is really part of that, but I think just the level of commitment to of the retiring teachers, teacher assistants, I think would be, second one,
Yeah,
whatever that's,
the education.
education.
I think number 3, just community outreach and involvement, because it's just use the tissue games as an example, with what Keith has accomplished, with the community and, circling back to our students, I think it falls in there, and also probably goal number 1 falls underneath that, giving our children that week that they're out of school, all this opportunity.
Absolutely. Okay, anyone has any other ones, please send them here. Brings us to our second public comment period. Do we have any emails?
Nope.
Okay. Colleen, is there anybody in your apartment over there that's wanting to speak publicly?
Well, some of the neighbors, when they saw the sign go up today, thought I was playing a joke. So they couldn't believe that. I'm like, this is New York and this is how we do it. So I will take that down. But I thought we'd have some joiners, but poolside. So
Sounds good. All right, that moves us into the adjournment phase of our meeting. See the next meeting dates and locations there. February 7th and March 21st, we'll have budget work sessions for the fund to commence. So please note the earlier time there.
Mhm.
Any new agenda topics? Any old agenda topics? All right. With that, I will adjourn the meeting. So I need a motion, recommended actions, motion to adjourn the meeting. Do I have a motion?
Moved.
Thank you, Ron. A second?
I'll second.
Hey, there you go. Jumping in on the good one. All right. So there we go.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
thank you.
Enjoy yourself, Colleen.
Have a good evening, Colleen.
Good evening.
Afternoon, right?
Afternoon.
3 hours.
Well,
5:19 here. So yeah. Have a good one. Thank you. See you. Bye-bye.